Homo habilis. Meet Homo habilis, the evolutionary oddball that defied logic. With ape-like arms, human-like hands, and a knack for crafting tools, these ancient ancestors were survivalists in a world of saber-toothed predators and monstrous crocodiles. How did this handyman shape human evolution while remaining a mystery in our lineage? Neanderthals. Homo erectus. This ancient hominin, whose very name translates to handyman in Latin, is widely recognized as one of the earliest members of our genus, Homo. But make no mistake, these were no ordinary humans. Homo habilis was a bizarre amalgamation of ape-like and human-like features that would have looked downright alien and unsettling to our modern eyes. Imagine a creature with a small, rounded skull, a protruding ape-like jaw, and long, gangly arms, yet somehow possessing the dexterous hands and budding technological prowess of a nascent toolmaker. This was Homo habilis, a true evolutionary weirdo that defies easy classification and sparks endless debates among paleontologists. The story of Homo habilis' discovery is a tale worthy of a blockbuster movie. It all began in the 1950s when a dynamic duo of anthropologists, Lewis and Mary Leakey, were scouring the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, searching for traces of humanity's earliest ancestors. Their perseverance paid off in spades when, in 1959 and 1960, their team unearthed a series of finds: teeth, a lower jaw, and even a partial juvenile skull. These remains were unlike anything they had encountered before, hinting at a creature that was somehow more advanced than the ape-like Australopithecus, yet not quite as evolved as the later Homo erectus. In 1964, the Leakeys, along with their colleagues Philip Tobias and John Napier, officially presented this newfound species to the world, dubbing it Homo habilis. It was a pivotal moment in the field of paleoanthropology, for this discovery shifted the search for the earliest humans from Asia to the wilds of Africa. Characteristics of Homo habilis. Now, what made Homo habilis so peculiar? Well, let's start with their brain size. While these early hominins had a significantly larger cranial capacity than their Australopithecine predecessors, averaging around 640 cubic centimeters, they were still pint-sized compared to the beefy brains of Homo erectus, which could reach up to 1,000 cubic centimeters. But size isn't everything, my friends, and Homo habilis more than made up for their relatively small noggins with a unique blend of ape-like and human-like features. Their skull was rounded and lacked the heavy brow ridges and protruding jaws of later humans, giving them a rather alien-like appearance. And while their hands were remarkably dexterous, their limb proportions were still a bit on the ape-like side, with long arms and relatively short legs. Some experts have argued that these early hominins were little more than a variant of the earlier Australopithecus genus, while others insist that they deserve their own distinct place within the Homo lineage. And then there's the whole Homo rudolfensis debacle, a closely related species that some believe should be lumped in with Homo habilis, while others maintain that they're separate entities. It's a veritable evolutionary quagmire, made all the more complicated by the fragmentary nature of the Homo habilis fossil record. With only a handful of relatively complete specimens to study, paleontologists have been left to piece together the puzzle of this species' origins and relationships, often coming to wildly different conclusions. As paleontologist Bernard Wood eloquently stated, the discovery of Homo habilis should remind us of how much we don't know, rather than how much we do. These ape-like creatures have left an indelible mark on our understanding of human evolution, but their true place in the grand scheme of things remains shrouded in mystery. But if there's one thing we can say with certainty about Homo habilis, it's that they were absolute masters of the stone tool game. These early hominins are firmly associated with the Olduvai stone tool industry, a revolutionary technological leap that predates even the appearance of the genus Homo. The Olduvai tools were a far cry from the sophisticated hand axes and finely crafted blades of later Homo species. We're talking about simple choppers, core tools, and flakes, the kind of basic implements that would have been used for tasks like butchering animals and processing plant materials. Imagine these creatures, their brows furrowed in concentration, carefully selecting the raw materials and striking the rocks with just the right amount of force to produce their sharp-edged tools. It's almost inconceivable that such primitive-looking hominins could have possessed the cognitive capabilities to master such a complex technological process. But master it they did, and the Olduvai tools represented a significant cognitive leap for our ancestors. Homo habilis nappers, as they're known, had to understand the mechanics of rock fracture, coordinate their movements, and exercise a level of foresight and planning that was previously thought to be beyond the abilities of such early hominins. Notably, the older one tool industry was once thought to be the oldest of its kind, but recent discoveries have pushed the origins of stone tool making back even further. In 2010, archaeologists found evidence of cut marks on bones dated to 3.39 million years ago in Dakika, Ethiopia, and in 2015, the site of Lomekwi in Kenya yielded stone artifacts from 3.3 million years ago. This predates the emergence of the genus Homo, shattering the notion that tool making was solely a human endeavor. Now you might be wondering, where exactly did these stone-wielding weirdos call home? Well, the fossil evidence tells us that Homo habilis was a true East African native, with remains found across Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, and even South Africa, and the environments they inhabited were completely different from the concrete jungles and manicured suburbs of our modern world. Imagine a vast, sprawling savanna dotted with scrubby bushes and the occasional towering tree. This was the domain of Homo habilis. These early hominins would have had to contend with a veritable menagerie of deadly predators, from saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas to the ever-present threat of crocodiles and hippopotamuses. In fact, we have direct evidence of Homo habilis individuals who fell victim to these fearsome creatures, with fossils showing clear signs of bite marks and other deadly injuries. One particularly unsettling find is the fossil of a Homo habilis foot that appears to have been bitten off by a crocodile, perhaps the massive, monstrous crocodilus Anthropophagus, a species that could grow nearly a meter longer than the largest modern crocodiles. The mere thought of these ape men being snatched from the riverbank by such an ancient primordial horror is enough to send a chill down the spine. And it wasn't just the crocodiles they had to worry about. Fossils also reveal evidence of Homo habilis individuals who fell prey to the deadly jaws of leopards and the bone-crushing attacks of saber-toothed cats. From resilience and adaptability, Homo habilis were able to not only survive, but thrive in such a treacherous landscape, armed with nothing more than their wits and their trusty stone tools. Diet and culture. So how exactly did these early hominins manage to make out an existence in the harsh African wilderness? Well, it seems that Homo habilis was quite the opportunistic omnivore, with a diet that included a little bit of everything. From the remains of their meals, we know that they scavenged the remains of animals killed by other predators, using their stone tools to crack open bones and extract the nutrient-rich marrow. They also likely hunted smaller prey, such as antelopes, and supplemented their diet with a variety of plant materials, including fruits, tubers, and even the occasional insect. But Homo habilis wasn't just about filling their bellies. These early humans were also pioneers of the cultural realm. Archaeologists have found evidence that they may have constructed the earliest known structures, using piles of volcanic rocks to create rudimentary shelters and windbreaks. And while the jury's still out on whether they had the cognitive capacity for true language, these hominins were almost certainly capable of some form of rudimentary communication, perhaps through a combination of grunts, gestures, and primitive vocalizations. Evolutionary debate and classification. Now, you'd think that with such a unique set of characteristics, Homo habilis would be easy to classify, but they're not. The placement of this species within the human family tree has been the subject of heated debate for decades, and the jury is still very much out. Some scientists argue that Homo habilis is simply a variant of the earlier Australopithecus genus, while others insist that it deserves its own distinct spot within the Homo lineage. And then there's the whole Homo rudolfensis debacle, a closely related species that some experts believe should be lumped in with Homo habilis, while others maintain that they're separate entities. Where did Homo habilis come from? And where did they fit in the lineage that ultimately led to us, modern Homo sapiens? The answers to these questions remain elusive, shrouded in the mists of time and the gaps in the fossil record. As paleoanthropologist Ian Tattersall put it, the early Homo story is a mess that can only be untangled by acknowledging the greater diversity of hominins that existed in the past, far beyond the confines of the Homo and Australopithecus genera. Homo habilis, with its peculiar mix of features, is a prime example of this evolutionary complexity. Have you ever dreamed about zipping back in time to walk among the dinosaurs? Get ready for an adventure, because we're about to blast off 145 million years into the past, to the Cretaceous period. The Cretaceous period was the last part of the age of dinosaurs, lasting from about 145 to 66 million years ago. It was a time of giant creatures, weird plants, and a world very different from the one we know today. Let's imagine what it would be like if you suddenly found yourself transported to this prehistoric era. First things first, don't panic. Yes, there are dinosaurs everywhere, but not all of them want to eat you. In fact, most dinosaurs were plant eaters, but you'd still need to be careful and always watch your surroundings. As you look around, you'd notice the air feels different. It's much warmer than what you're used to, and there's more oxygen in the air. This extra oxygen is part of why everything in the Cretaceous seems supersized. The plants look strange too. There are no grass or flowers like we know them. Instead, you'd see lots of ferns, cycads, which look a bit like palm trees, and conifers, pine tree relatives. The ground is covered with moss and low-growing plants. Now, let's talk about your new neighbors, the dinosaurs. You might spot a herd of duck-billed hadrosaurs munching on plants nearby. These dinosaurs had hundreds of teeth perfect for grinding tough plants. They're about as tall as a house and move in big groups. If you're lucky, you might even hear them making loud, trumpeting calls to communicate with each other. But wait, what's that stomping sound? Oh boy, it's a T-Rex. This fearsome predator is as long as a school bus and has teeth as big as bananas. Its tiny arms might look funny, but don't laugh. Those powerful jaws can crush bones. If you see one, it's best to hide or climb a tall tree. Speaking of trees, look up and you might see some flying reptiles called pterosaurs soaring overhead. Some are as small as sparrows, while others have wingspans wider than a small airplane. If you're near water, be extra careful. Lakes and rivers in the Cretaceous are home to crocodiles much bigger than the ones we have today. And in the oceans, you'd find giant marine reptiles like mosasaurs, which look like a cross between a crocodile and a snake, but as big as a school bus. Now you might be wondering, where are all the mammals? Well, they're around, but they're not the big, diverse group we know today. Most Cretaceous mammals were small, about the size of mice or rats. They mostly came out at night when the dinosaurs were sleeping. So how would you survive in this prehistoric world? Here are some tips. Number 1, find shelter. You'd need to find a safe place to sleep, like a cave or a sturdy treehouse. Make sure it's high enough or hidden enough to keep you safe from dinosaurs. Number 2, find food and water. There are lots of plants around, but be careful. Some might be poisonous. Stick to fruits and seeds from conifers. For meat, you could try fishing or hunting small animals. Always boil water from rivers or lakes to make it safe to drink. Number 3, make tools. You'd need to make your own tools for hunting, cooking, and building shelter. Rocks, sticks, and animal bones could be used to make simple tools and weapons. Number 4, stay alert. Always be aware of your surroundings. Learn to recognize dinosaur tracks and sounds so you can avoid dangerous predators. Number 5, find friends. Some dinosaurs, like Triceratops or Stegosaurus, were plant eaters and might ignore you if you don't bother them. They could even help keep predators away. Life in the Cretaceous would be an adventure, but also very dangerous. There's no electricity, no stores, no doctors, and definitely no internet. You'd have to be tough, smart, and lucky to survive. But it's not all scary. Imagine watching a sunset with a herd of long-necked sauropods silhouetted against the sky, or waking up to the calls of strange birds and pterosaurs. You might even witness the birth of baby dinosaurs. The Cretaceous was also a time of big changes on Earth. If you stayed long enough, millions of years, you'd see some amazing things happen. The Cretaceous was a time of incredible change. Continents drifted slowly into their modern positions, reshaping the world over millions of years. Towards the period's end, the first flowering plants emerged, painting the landscape with new colors and fragrances. Dinosaurs were constantly evolving, with new species appearing as others vanished. Feathered dinosaurs, the ancestors of today's birds, became increasingly common. The seas were also in flux, with levels rising and falling dramatically. Sometimes oceans flooded the land, creating new coastlines, while at other times they retreated, revealing fresh terrain. These changes happened gradually, over vast stretches of time. But if you could witness the entire Cretaceous period, you'd see a world in constant transformation, setting the stage for the planet we know today. But all good things must come to an end. The Cretaceous period ended with a bang, literally. About 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid hit the Earth. This impact caused huge changes all over the planet. There were earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanoes erupting everywhere. Dust and gases filled the sky, blocking out the sun and making it hard for plants to grow. Without plants, many plant-eating dinosaurs starved, and without them, the meat-eaters had no food either. This event, known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction, wiped out about 75% of all plant and animal species on Earth, including all non-bird dinosaurs. It was the end of the age of dinosaurs and the beginning of the age of mammals. But let's go back to our time travel adventure. What if you could bring something back from the Cretaceous? Maybe a dinosaur egg or a piece of amber with a prehistoric insect inside? Well, that might not be a good idea. Bringing anything from the past could change our present in ways we can't predict. Plus, a baby T-Rex wouldn't make a very good pet. Instead, why not use your imagination? You can explore the Cretaceous world through books, movies, and museum exhibits. You can even become a paleontologist and help discover new things about this amazing time in Earth's history. So what do you think? Would you want to visit the Cretaceous period if you could? It would be scary and dangerous, but also exciting and full of wonder. You'd see creatures and plants that no human has ever seen in real life. You'd breathe air from millions of years ago and walk on ground that might one day become fossils. The Cretaceous period was a time of giants, of strange and wonderful life forms, and of a world both alien and familiar. It was the last act in the long age of dinosaurs, setting the stage for the rise of mammals, and eventually, us. Next time you see a bird, remember, you're looking at a living dinosaur, a tiny window into that lost world of the Cretaceous. And who knows, maybe one day, scientists will find a way to bring some of these extinct creatures back to life. Until then, we'll have to rely on our imaginations, guided by the clues left behind in the rocks beneath our feet. So, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep wondering about the amazing history of our planet. After all, every rock could hold a fossil, every fossil tells a story, and every story brings us a little closer to understanding the incredible world of the Cretaceous period. What if I told you there once was a creature so massive it made a T-Rex look like a chihuahua? A beast so tall it could touch a fifth-story window, and so heavy it left footprints you could swim in. This is the world of titanosaurs, the true titans of Earth's history. Titanosaurs were part of a group called sauropods. These were the long-necked, plant-eating dinosaurs you might have seen in pictures or movies. But titanosaurs were special. They were the biggest and last of their kind. They were like the grand finale in the long story of giant plant-eating dinosaurs. When titanosaurs first showed up, the world was very different from what we see today. It was much hotter, and the continents were still close together in a big landmass called Gondwana. The air had more carbon dioxide, which made plants grow really big. This was perfect for the giant titanosaurs who needed to eat a lot of food every day. These huge animals lived all over the world. They were found in South America, where some of the biggest titanosaurs lived. They also roamed across North America, Africa, and Asia. Amazingly, they even lived in Antarctica. Back then, Antarctica wasn't all ice and snow like it is now. It was warmer and had forests where titanosaurs could find food. Not all titanosaurs were the same size. Some were as big as elephants, which is still pretty large, but others were truly massive. The largest known titanosaur is called Patagotitan. It was longer than 3 school buses put together and weighed as much as 12 elephants. What made titanosaurs unique was their body shape. They had incredibly long necks, sometimes up to 11 meters long. That's like 2 tall giraffes stacked on top of each other. But these necks weren't heavy like you might think. They were full of air pockets, like bird bones. This made them lighter and easier to move. It was a clever trick that let titanosaurs reach high up into trees for food without falling over. Titanosaurs had small heads compared to their huge bodies. This might seem strange, but it worked well for them. Their teeth were shaped like pencils or spoons, perfect for stripping leaves off branches. They didn't chew their food like we do. Instead, they swallowed leaves whole and let their big stomachs do the work of digesting. Titanosaurs grew new teeth all their lives. Unlike us, who only get 2 sets of teeth, baby teeth and adult teeth, titanosaurs were constantly replacing their teeth. This was really useful because eating tough plants wore down their teeth quickly. Their legs were really interesting too. They stuck out to the sides, making titanosaurs look wide and sturdy. This helped them support their massive weight. Their leg bones were incredibly strong. The largest titanosaur leg bone ever found is 2.4 meters long. That's taller than most people. Even though they were huge, some titanosaurs could move pretty fast, up to 20 kilometers per hour. That's about as fast as a human can run. Imagine seeing a building-sized animal moving that quickly. Scientists have found lots of titanosaur fossils that tell us about their lives. One of the most exciting discoveries happened in 2021 when farmers in Argentina found bones of a massive titanosaur. It took years for scientists to carefully dig up all the bones. Finds like this help us understand just how big these animals could get. In Argentina, scientists also found a place where titanosaurs laid their eggs. This was a really important discovery because it showed us how these giant dinosaurs took care of their babies. They found hundreds of nests, each with about 25 eggs. The eggs were round and about the size of volleyballs. These nesting sites tell us that female titanosaurs dug nests and carefully buried their eggs, just like some modern animals do. This was surprising because it's hard to imagine such huge animals being gentle enough to make nests and lay eggs without breaking them. This discovery also showed that titanosaurs probably lived in groups, a herd of these giants walking together with the adults protecting the young ones. It must have been an amazing sight. Living in herds probably helped titanosaurs stay safe from predators. After all, even the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs would think twice before attacking a group of titanosaurs. We've learned about what titanosaurs ate by studying fossilized dinosaur poop. Yes, even dinosaur poop can turn into fossils. These fossils, called coprolites, tell us a lot about what titanosaurs ate. They ate all sorts of plants, including pine trees, ferns, and early flowering plants. Some scientists think they might have even eaten early types of grass. Titanosaurs played a big role in shaping the plant life of their time. Because they ate so much and traveled in herds, they could change entire forests. They might have helped spread plant seeds across large areas as they moved and pooped. This tells us that titanosaurs were important not just because they were big, but because they affected the whole environment around them. Titanosaurs lived all over the world, and scientists have found different species on every continent. Some famous ones include Patagotitan and Argentinosaurus from South America. These are among the largest land animals ever discovered. In North America, there was Alamosaurus, which lived right up until the time when dinosaurs went extinct. Africa had its own titanosaurs too. Paralititan lived in what is now Egypt, but back then it was a coastal area with lots of mangrove trees. In Asia, scientists found Juchengtitan in China. There's even a titanosaur called Australotitan found in Australia. In Europe, which was mostly islands during the time of the titanosaurs, something interesting happened. Because the islands had limited food, some titanosaurs evolved to be smaller. This is called island dwarfism, and it's something we see in other animals too. One example is Magyarosaurus, a titanosaur from Romania that was much smaller than its relatives on larger continents. Sadly, titanosaurs died out when a big asteroid hit Earth about 66 million years ago. This event, which happened near what is now Mexico, caused huge changes all over the world. It created giant tsunamis, started big fires, and put so much dust in the air that it blocked out the sun for a long time. This killed many plants, which meant there wasn't enough food for big plant eaters like titanosaurs. This event didn't just kill titanosaurs, it marked the end of all dinosaurs except for the ancestors of birds. Even though titanosaurs are gone, scientists are still learning a lot about them. They use some really cool tools to study titanosaur fossils. One of these is computer modeling. Scientists input information from fossils into powerful computers, which then create 3D models of how these dinosaurs looked and moved. This helps us understand things like how titanosaurs held their necks, how they walked, and even how fast they could move. New ways of finding fossils are helping scientists discover more titanosaur remains. One exciting method is using ground-penetrating radar. This special radar can see underground and help locate fossils without having to dig up large areas. This is really helpful because it means scientists can find fossils while causing less damage to the surrounding area. There's still a lot we don't know about titanosaurs. How did they grow so big? Some scientists think it might have to do with their bird-like respiratory system, which could have helped them get more oxygen. How did their stomachs work to digest so many plants? They must have had very efficient digestive systems to get enough nutrition from leaves and branches. Are there even bigger titanosaurs we haven't found yet? Every year, new fossils are discovered, so it's possible there are even larger titanosaurs waiting to be found. These are questions that young scientists might answer one day. Maybe some of the kids reading about titanosaurs now will grow up to be paleontologists. How living things change over long periods of time. They evolved from earlier, smaller sauropods, gradually getting bigger and developing new features like their wide-set legs and air-filled bones. This reminds us that life is always adapting and changing in response to its environment. Every time scientists find a new titanosaur fossil, we learn more about these amazing creatures and the world they lived in. Sometimes a single bone can tell us a lot. For example, by studying the growth rings in titanosaur bones, similar to tree rings, scientists can tell how fast these animals grew and how long they lived. In recent years, there have been some exciting titanosaur discoveries. In 2014, farmers in Argentina found fossils of a new species of titanosaur. When scientists excavated the bones, they realized they had found one of the largest dinosaurs ever. They named it Patagatitan majorum. This discovery made headlines all over the world and got many people excited about dinosaurs. Another interesting find was made in Australia. In 2021, scientists announced that the discovery of Australotitan cooperensis, nicknamed the Southern Titan. This was the largest dinosaur ever found in Australia, showing that titanosaurs lived all over the world. Titanosaurs have captured people's imaginations all over the world. Many museums have exhibits featuring titanosaur fossils or full-size models. Some of these models are so big that they can't fit into a single room. Seeing these displays helps people understand just how enormous these animals were. If you enjoyed this jumbo-sized journey through prehistory, don't forget to hit that like button. And hey, why not join our herd? Subscribe now for more epic adventures in paleontology. T-Rex. T-Rex means tyrant lizard king. It lived about 68 to 66 million years ago, which was a really long time ago. T-Rex fossils were found mostly in North America, in places like Montana and Canada. T-Rex was huge. It was about 40 feet long, which is as long as a school bus and 12 feet tall at the hips. That's taller than a basketball hoop. It weighed as much as a big truck, about 7 tons. T-Rex had a massive head, with big sharp teeth up to 12 inches long. That's as long as a ruler. Its arms were tiny, only about 3 feet long, but its legs were strong and powerful. T-Rex ate big plant-eating dinosaurs like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus. It probably hunted by hiding and then surprising its prey. Scientists think T-Rex had very good eyesight and a great sense of smell to help it hunt. They aren't sure if T-Rex hunted alone or in groups. Maybe they did both. T-Rex could run pretty fast for its size, maybe up to 20 miles per hour. That's as fast as a bicycle. Its strong tail helped it balance when it ran. T-Rex is super popular and shows up in lots of movies, books, and museums. It's one of the most famous dinosaurs ever, sauropods. Sauropods were the giants of the dinosaur world. They lived mostly during the Jurassic period, about 201 to 145 million years ago. That's way before T-Rex. Sauropods like Brachiosaurus were huge. Some were over 100 feet long and weighed as much as 100 tons. That's as heavy as 14 big elephants. The biggest sauropod we know about is called Argentinosaurus, and it might have been even bigger. They had very long necks and tails, with big bodies and thick legs like tree trunks. Their necks could be up to 30 feet long as a classroom. Sauropods only ate plants, using their long necks to reach leaves high up in trees. They didn't chew their food, but swallowed it whole and digested it in their big bellies. Famous sauropods include Brachiosaurus, Apatosaurus, Diplodocus, and Brontosaurus. You can see their huge skeletons in many museums around the world. Scientists think sauropods might have lived in herds to protect each other from predators. Ceratopsians. Ceratopsians were the horn-faced dinosaurs. They lived during the Cretaceous period, about 145 to 66 million years ago. That's the same time as T-Rex. The most famous ceratopsian is Triceratops. It had 3 horns on its face and a big frill on its head. The frill was like a bony shield protecting its neck. Ceratopsians were about the size of a car or small elephant. Some were smaller, like Protoceratops, which was about the size of a sheep. These dinosaurs ate plants. They had strong beaks like parrots to chomp tough plants. They used their horns and frills to protect themselves from meat eaters and maybe to show off to other ceratopsians. Other cool ceratopsians include Styracosaurus, which had lots of spikes on its frill, and Cosmoceratops, which had the fanciest frill of all with lots of curled hooks. Raptors. Raptors were small, fast, and smart meat-eating dinosaurs. They lived during the Cretaceous period, about 145 to 66 million years ago. Raptors like velociraptors were about the size of a big turkey. They had sharp claws, especially a big, curved claw on each foot. This claw was like a hook and very sharp. Raptors were covered in feathers, like birds today. These dinosaurs were clever hunters. They had big brains for their size and good eyesight. They probably hunted in packs to take down bigger prey. The raptors could run fast and jump high. Famous raptors include Velociraptor, Deinonychus, and Utahraptor. Utahraptor was the biggest raptor, about the size of a polar bear. Scientists think raptors might have been able to do some simple problem solving, like modern birds. Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus were the armored dinosaurs. They lived during the Cretaceous period, about 145 to 66 million years ago. Ankylosaurus, like Ankylosaurus, were covered in bony armor. It was like they were wearing a suit of armor all the time. Some had spikes on their sides and a big club on the end of their tail. They were about 20 feet long and very heavy, weighing as much as an elephant. These dinosaurs ate plants and used their armor to protect themselves from meat eaters. They were like tanks on 4 legs. Their heads were low to the ground, so they probably ate low-growing plants. Some Ankylosaurus, like Euoplocephalus, had bony eyelids to protect their eyes. Others, like Nodosaurus, had spikes sticking out from their sides. Feathered dinosaurs. Many dinosaurs had feathers, not just the ones that could fly. Scientists have found many fossils of feathered dinosaurs, especially in China. Feathered dinosaurs include small ones, like Microraptor, which could glide between trees, and big ones like Yutyrannus, a relative of T-Rex. Yutyrannus was covered in fuzzy feathers, even though it was about 30 feet long. These dinosaurs show us that birds evolved from dinosaurs. Their feathers might have been used for keeping warm, showing off to other dinosaurs, or even flying. Some dinosaurs had colorful feathers, just like modern birds. Archaeopteryx is a famous feathered dinosaur that lived about 150 million years ago. It had feathers and could fly a little bit, but it also had teeth and a long tail like other dinosaurs. Hadrosaurs. Hadrosaurs were the duck-billed dinosaurs. They lived late in dinosaur times, during the Cretaceous period. Hadrosaurs like Parasaurolophus had flat beaks for eating plants and sometimes weird crests on their heads. The crest on Parasaurolophus was curved and hollow. Scientists think it might have been used to make loud sounds. These dinosaurs could walk on 2 legs or 4 and were about 30 feet long. They had hundreds of teeth in their mouths, all packed together to grind up tough plants. Hadrosaurs lived in big herds. Some hadrosaurs were good parents, taking care of their babies in nests. Scientists have found fossils of baby hadrosaurs still in their nests. Ornithomimids. Ornithomimids were the ostrich-mimic dinosaurs. They lived during the Cretaceous period, about 145 to 66 million years ago. These dinosaurs looked a lot like ostriches, with long legs for running, small heads, and no teeth. They were very fast and could run up to 50 miles per hour. That's faster than a racehorse. Ornithomimids like Gallimimus probably ate both plants and small animals. They had beaks and long arms with claws that might have been good for digging up food. They often show up in movies, running in big groups. Some ornithomimids, like Deinocheirus, were really weird-looking. Deinocheirus had a hump on its back, a duck-like beak, and huge arms with big claws. Ornithopods. Ornithopods were small to medium-sized plant-eating dinosaurs. They lived from about 228 to 66 million years ago. That's almost the whole time of the dinosaurs. These dinosaurs could walk on 2 legs or 4. They had beaks for eating plants and cheek teeth for chewing. Famous ornithopods include Iguanodon and Mantellosaurus. Iguanodon had a spike on its thumb that it might have used for defense. It could walk on 2 legs or 4 and was about 30 feet long. Ornithopods were some of the first dinosaurs that scientists discovered and named. They were very common and lived all over the world, from Europe to North America to Australia. Pachycephalosaurs. Pachycephalosaurs were the thick-headed dinosaurs. They lived late in dinosaur times, during the Cretaceous period. These dinosaurs had very thick skull roofs, sometimes with spikes or bumps. Pachycephalosaurus had a dome-shaped head almost 10 inches thick. That's thicker than a bicycle helmet. Scientists think pachycephalosaurs might have used their thick heads to butt each other, like sheep do today. Maybe they did this to fight over mates or territory. They ate plants and were about 15 feet long. Some pachycephalosaurs, like Stygimoloch, had spikes sticking out of the back of their heads. They looked pretty fierce. Prosauropods. Prosauropods were some of the first big plant-eating dinosaurs. They lived during the Triassic and early Jurassic periods, about 228 to 190 million years ago. That's really early in dinosaur history. These dinosaurs could walk on 2 legs or 4. They had long necks and small heads. Prosauropods were ancestors of the giant sauropods that came later. Famous prosauropods include Plateosaurus and Massospondylus. They were about 20 to 30 feet long. Plateosaurus was one of the first dinosaurs to live in big groups. Prosauropods had leaf-shaped teeth for eating plants, but some scientists think they might have eaten meat sometimes too. Stegosaurs. Stegosaurs were the plate-backed dinosaurs. They lived during the Jurassic period, about 201 to 145 million years ago. The most famous stegosaur is Stegosaurus. It had big bony plates along its back and spikes on its tail. Stegosaurus was about 30 feet long and had a brain the size of a dog's. These dinosaurs ate plants. Scientists aren't sure what the plates were for, maybe to look bigger to scare predators or to help control their body temperature. The spikes on their tails were probably used for defense. Other stegosaurs include Kentrosaurus, which had spikes all along its body, and Tuojiangosaurus from China. The Resinosaurs. The Resinosaurs were very strange-looking dinosaurs. They lived during the Cretaceous period, about 145 to 66 million years ago. These dinosaurs had big bodies, long necks, small heads, and huge claws on their hands. The Resinosaurus had claws over 3 feet long. That's taller than some kids. Even though they look scary, the Resinosaurs probably ate plants. They might have used their big claws to pull down branches to eat leaves. They also had beaks like today's plant-eating birds. The Resinosaurs were covered in feathers and could grow to be about 33 feet long. They're some of the weirdest dinosaurs we know about. Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus means spine lizard. It lived about 112 to 93 million years ago. Spinosaurus fossils have been found mainly in North Africa. In countries like Egypt and Morocco, Spinosaurus was one of the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs ever. It was about 50 to 59 feet long, even bigger than T-Rex. It had a long, narrow head that looked a bit like a crocodile's, with sharp teeth for catching fish. The coolest thing about Spinosaurus was the big sail on its back. This sail was made of tall spines covered by skin. It might have been used to help Spinosaurus stay warm or cool, or to show off to other Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus mostly ate fish, and probably spent a lot of time in the water. Its nostrils were high on its head, which would have helped it breathe while partly underwater. It had big, flat feet that might have helped it swim. Spinosaurus became really famous after it was in the movie Jurassic Park 3. Scientists are still learning new things about this amazing dinosaur.